It all kicked off with a simple, almost random question that women were encouraged to ask the men in their lives. How often do you think about the Roman Empire? What started as a fun social media prompt quickly turned into a genuine cultural phenomenon. Some guys said a few times a week, and a shocking number admitted to thinking about it daily. It was like exposing a secret global society of men daydreaming about a civilization that collapsed 1,500 years ago. But that just leaves one giant question. Why? Well, a big part of the appeal is this fantasy of primal strength and survival. In a modern world where definitions of masculinity are constantly shifting, the Roman Empire can feel like an escape to a time of unfiltered action and clear-cut consequences. I mean, we're talking about a terrifying scale of violence here. Over 4 centuries, the Colosseum alone saw hundreds of thousands of men and a staggering 1 million beasts perish. It taps into a world where strength and dominance were absolutely key to survival. But, it's really not all about swords and sandals. If you actually listen to what men are saying, you hear a deep, almost nerdy admiration for Roman systems. So welcome to The Explainer, where today we're unpacking the mesmerizing systems, the logistics, and that craving for order that built the Roman Empire, and why it still has such a grip on the modern psyche. Let's just quickly run through our agenda. We're going to break this obsession down into 5 distinct pillars: the engineer's paradise, the military machine, Caesar's quest for power, the ultimate spectacle, and the legacy of stone. Okay, starting with pillar number 1, the engineer's paradise, concrete and ambition. Some researchers theorize that men's brains are often wired for systemizing, which means understanding and building rule-based systems. And if there was ever a systemizer's paradise, it was Rome. Think about the Greeks for a second. They relied entirely on columns to hold their buildings up. But the Romans, they invented concrete, vaults, and arches that were so structurally logical and strong that their columns became purely ornamental. They basically built structures that supported themselves. And they totally weaponized this engineering for political impact. Take Emperor Vespasian. When he took power, he didn't just move into his despised predecessor Nero's luxurious private palace. No, he completely drained Nero's artificial lake and built a massive 50,000-seat public amphitheater right on top of it. He engineered a brilliant solution that literally gave the heart of the city back to the citizens. Moving right along to pillar number 2. The military machine, order and logistics. In a world that honestly feels chaotic a lot of the time, there's a deep psychological comfort in Roman order. They were the ultimate systemizers, logically building their army from the ground up. It started with an 8-man contubernium sharing a single tent, which built up to a century of 80, a cohort of 480, and finally a massive legion of over 5,000 soldiers, all moving with absolute unbreakable discipline. And the logistics required to supply this? Absolutely mind-boggling. To put the physical footprint into perspective, a single marching legion would stretch almost 4 kilometers long and take 45 minutes just to walk past you. And they had at least 30 of these legions moving across 3 continents at their peak. It is just the ultimate logistical triumph. Next up, pillar number 3, Caesar's quest for power, speed, and psychology. For so many guys, Julius Caesar represents the ultimate fantasy of pure power and competence, a guy who solves problems with a solid plan. Look at this astonishing speed. During a war in Asia Minor that had previously taken 3 years just to secure, Caesar arrived in Pontus and decisively crushed the entire enemy force in exactly 5 days. And then he instantly capitalizes on this rapid victory with what has to be the greatest piece of ancient PR ever crafted. He sends a simple 3-word message back to Rome. I came, I saw, I conquered. It's just this image of completely unwavering self-assurance. But his real genius was psychological control. It's a kind of ruthless emotional fortitude that brings to mind stoicism, a philosophy a lot of men are turning to today for a stable internal playbook. When Caesar's own veteran legions mutinied, he didn't panic. He just calmly walked out and addressed them as citizens instead of soldiers. Just by logically signaling that they were already out of his inner circle, they instantly broke down and begged to re-enlist. He mastered chaos by choosing logic over a panicked reaction. Which brings us to pillar number 4, the ultimate spectacle, bread, circuses, and blood. All of that conquest funneled directly back to the capital, and the Colosseum wasn't just a sandy arena. It was a highly complex machine. It featured crazy innovations like the velarium, which was this gigantic retractable fabric roof suspended over the crowd to provide shade. It was so intricate that it required a coordinated crew of 240 Imperial sailors just to operate the winches and pulleys. But the arena's true purpose was absolute social control. They had 76 numbered entrances that efficiently filtered spectators into rigidly segregated tiers. You had senators at the bottom, wealthy citizens next, the poor higher up, and slaves at the very top. You literally sat in your assigned place in society, visually reinforcing Rome's strict order every single time you gathered. And right beneath the sand lay the hypogeum. This was an intricate, hidden labyrinth of manual elevators, pulleys, and cages. This hidden machinery is what allowed heavily armed gladiators and wild, exotic beasts to seamlessly emerge into the arena as if by absolute magic. And get this, they even possessed the outrageous engineering prowess to remove the wooden floor, flood the entire basin using channels connected to the city's aqueducts, and stage full-scale bloody naval battles on actual ships. I mean, it was the absolute zenith of dominating your environment. Finally, let's wrap up with pillar number 5, the legacy of stone, from quarry to icon. The Roman Empire obviously fell, but their greatest achievements stubbornly refused to disappear. Over the centuries, the amphitheater survived being abandoned, it was transformed into a medieval fortress, and it was even aggressively mined as a stone and iron quarry before finally being protected as a religious site. The civilization collapsed, but that blueprint remained. So the next time you hear someone ask how often men think about the Roman Empire, consider this. Are we just geeking out over the peak of ancient, rule-based engineering? Or in a messy modern world, are we secretly looking back to a fantasy of clear-cut masculinity, resilience, and unbreakable order? Are we admiring a triumph of civilized ingenuity or the ultimate architecture of brutal control? It's definitely a question worth asking.